folks, welcome back to the Genki Comics channel. I'm Gord.
And I'm Charles.
And yeah, it's been a while since I've done a haul with you from like my thrift hauls. You know, when we're driving around, when we got appointments somewhere in the city, or if we take a little road trip outside of the city, I try to visit thrift stores and see what I can salvage and pull out of those places. And so here's another stack. I've been building these up for a while and need to like organize my bookshelf. So I really wanted to record this video. So we'll go through these real quick. I'll tell you why I bought them. If you got any questions about any of this stuff, Charles, or any insight that you can provide into some of these, that would be wonderful.
Sure. It's all pretty new to me.
There's two that aren't in there.
Oh, we're going to add to the stack.
Oh shit, actually more. Okay, there's a few more.
Let's see if we can teeter everything.
I'll put these in
two stacks.
Okay, there we go. 2 stacks. This is a good one. 2 stacks. All right.
Let's get ripping.
Okay, so here we go. Just real fast. Charles bought this for me. This Was Your Life. Trying to inspire me with some chick tracks.
Even I didn't pay for it because I don't want to give them any money. My friends in Saskatoon, two separate friends in 2 separate neighborhoods across the city from each other. Some church in Saskatoon is buying up chick tracks and distributing them. So both of them received these chick tracks, and one of them was nice enough to send that to me, and the other one's holding on to it, and I'll grab it at Christmas because it's fascinating. But yeah, chick tracks.
Awesome stuff. I definitely want to build up a small collection of those. And
yes.
More so than that, the ones that are parodying them. Because they're all brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah. Michael McAdams stuff. Oh, sweet. All right. So Larry Gonick. Larry Gonick is, I guess, one of the heroes of underground comics with an X, coming out of the 60s in... San Francisco. So Larry Gonick is part of that whole scene.
Okay.
And probably the one who made the most money because of a little book called Cartoon History of the Universe.
Okay.
Which is really, I would say, kind of required reading for comic fans. But of course, you make a good thing and people respond to it. You got to make more. So he's done some academic stuff. Cartoon Guide to Chemistry. Somebody was collecting these, obviously, and I was able to pick that up. You Might Be From Canada with If by Michael De Adder.
And this same, I think it's the same publisher.
Same publisher.
Several like this,
you Might Be From If.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And different creatives on each one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're showing me a stack you have of ones like this.
Yeah, so maybe we'll spend some time with that in a future video, going through some of those people dictating.
I was done for the Canada 150.
Oh,
got a grant for that.
Got a grant for that.
Must be nice.
That's going to stack up at a thrift store. All right, so some more Larry Gonick works. Cartoon Guide to Statistics, Cartoon Guide to Physics, and Cartoon Guide to Genetics.
Wow. What a jump from like truly like purely underground comics to really academic stuff.
Yeah, really academic stuff. So, you know, one thing I want to at some point do is, I don't think it's something that's done in comics very much, is going that route of looking at concepts. That's it, right? So I love books like about the concept of empathy. Mm-hmm. How can we take a book like that and put it into a comic book? I think Larry Gonick's got some things to say about that. So
yeah, was he a school teacher by trade or anything that would lead him to go more towards it? I just wonder, you know, how do you jump into that world from this outside? Very interesting.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, apparently. So he deserves some looks. So yeah, you know, talking about adaptation, talking about histories in comic books, I do find this conflict in Northern Ireland, all of Ireland, to be very interesting. And my wife's personal history as well, her family history, and their story of coming to Canada is really about the Troubles, as it's often called. So I wanted to read up and get a detailed history on that. This is not that. This is a piece of propaganda from the British military, written by the British military, or at least somebody from the British military.
Talking about how our good fighting boys are going to clean up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very newsreel style, I'm sure.
Yeah, no nuance in this at all.
Great.
I would classify this as propaganda, and no other word for it. I don't think I'm gonna hang on to this because, like, as soon as I started reading it, I was like, clearly this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so there's that.
The Stacks.
The
Beautiful
Stacks by Mark Bell. Mark Bell being a Canadian treasure for illustration.
Drawn and Quarterly. I keep seeing their name on every time you pull something out where I'm like, that's really cute. That's really nicely put together and really like got something to it. Really quaint.
Yeah.
It's always a Drawn and Quarterly.
So Fantagraphics is the American Drawn Quarterly. I would say Drawn Quarterly has contributed a lot to this medium, and like Chester Brown, who, if you folks don't know, I love Chester Brown. I think he's absolutely genius when it comes to comics. I don't like everything he does, but I do think the man is a genius. And Drawn and Quarterly, that's part of the house that he built, right? Probably the biggest publisher of graphic novels in Canada at this time.
Yeah.
Conundrum probably being the next closest.
Okay.
So Mark Bell's been around for a long time and has wonderful art, and I was really excited to find the Petit Livre. It was a small imprint that Drawn and Quarterly was doing. I have a few from that line. Really excited to see Mark Bell's out in the wild at a thrift store, so I grabbed that.
It's a good find.
Yeah, and I definitely want to build up my Mark Bell collection because the guy, again. Okay, so this dude is not a Canadian, but he is amazing. And as you know, Charles, I've been trying to incorporate watercolors, do watercolors in my art, and to me, this is the pinnacle of watercolor in comic art. Is this French artist named Gipi? He goes by Gipi, I think.
Okay.
Gipi. I'm not sure how he's pronouncing it. That's not his real name. But you can see a couple of examples of attempts that have been made to adapt this stuff to an American or a Canadian audience. Fantagraphics taking a stab at it, and then these two other books here by First Second. I didn't get these at a thrift store. I picked these up off of Thrift Books, I believe.
Okay.
Just in interest. I used to have this one, but I wanted to grab it again. Because, I mean, look at that cover. Insane. That's how I want to paint.
It's wild.
Like that.
Beautiful.
He won an award for this book, this Garage Band. I think it was like Best in Show at Angoulême, which is a big convention in France. So yeah, want to study his stuff.
Beautiful. Yes.
And on that note,
your homework. This is your homework here.
Is how to draw horses. One project that I'm working on right now is going to have a lot of horses in it, and so
got to put in the work.
What a better place to start than a book for little girls who love ponies.
Mine will probably turn out to look more like dogs. So if I'll have to borrow this from you.
That's the danger, right?
I'll have to borrow it from you when you're done with it. Yes, you've got a little Jean Giraud.
Yeah, same reason.
Yeah,
right. Wanted to dive in and see how other people are doing westerns.
Yeah,
and especially the master.
Jean Giraud or Mobius.
Yep. Seeing how he's doing it. But it's very intimidating when you look at his stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it can be very daunting, but great. You learn a lot of great little tricks as well, and look at how you get to look at things like economy of line versus complexity of line, and how the two could be put together. That's the thing I always find about Jean Giraud that is the most wild, is where he chooses to put complexity and detail versus where it makes more sense not to.
The thing that blew me away about this as I was going through it, as I was telling you before, it surprises me how few horses there are in Western comics.
Mm.
It's like you've got that establishing shot. There's a horse in it. You don't see that horse
Then you
for the
move
rest
on
of the comic.
because they got to draw those pages and they have to draw them very quickly.
And you don't see that here. So, for myself, who's like a self-trained artist, really just figuring things out as I do them, anatomy is something that I find I can fake sometimes or stretch and play with. And the mark, I think, of a really good artist is good knowledge of anatomy, human anatomy. So Mobius goes a step further. This guy knows horse anatomy.
The equine anatomy is also there.
There was a scene in here where he's got a horse falling down from something, and it's like, what the hell? How does he know how to do that? He studied horses. That's how he knows how to do it. He truly is a master. I was gonna save this one for the end. I'm sure people maybe have seen this one before. It's Building Stories by Chris Ware. Seeing it in the Thrift, I was like, I have to get it, especially at the price I paid for it. If I could just open it up here,
just to show the amount of artifacts that are in here, and
So, Building Stories. He is telling you the story of a building, of a place, through its inhabitants and different sort of, I don't want to say mediums, because they're all comics, but
totally different footprints and just ways of doing it. Just complete.
Like, you feel like you're visiting different again, not a medium, but a format. I guess.
Complete format changes, and just astounding. It's astounding stuff. And just every single piece is totally a total lane change. Yeah. Where you see how many times he had to adapt and do something completely different. And it changes the way you do storytelling. So it works perfect for this because he's telling the story of so many different inhabitants that you naturally want to change those gears. This one's a tough one to get.
Yeah, there's a couple of newspapers.
This is a huge newspaper. That's a full and on the full. I guess this would be like a 22 by. I can't remember what the flat size of this would be, but it's
massive.
Massive.
Absolutely massive and absolutely beautiful. So many pieces in this you could frame and put on your wall easily. There was a conversation that we were having recently with your wife, who's a very literate person, and her frustration with this medium of comic books is that it's not immersive enough, and that you can read a graphic novel over the course of like 3 hours. And I'm trying to rack my brain of like, okay, well, what's a graphic novel that would fit for that kind of reader? Because there's certainly readers like that out there. So to me, this is probably it. At the time, I was thinking Blankets, which I'm not a huge fan of, but Blankets could be that. Like, Blankets requires a few, potentially even a couple of readings. Berlin by Jason Lutz would be another one. But this to me seems like quite an investment of time to go through and spend time.
And it's an experience to go through it.
Yeah,
because taking everything out and just the discovery process is
it's a tactile experience at the same time, which is just
I was
great.
quite astounded by this because I hadn't really known it before. I had seen this cover shot, not knowing what this was.
Yeah, Chris Ware at his finest, probably. All right, I got to read this thing. I'll let you know. So, adaptations, the Ecstacy of Rita Joe. I've been looking for like indigenous scripts, indigenous plays. This is a play here of maybe pulling from to do a comic about at some point. We'll see. Ecstacy of Rita Joe. A lot of these stories tend to be like Thrasher was another one of classic indigenous Canadian lit. The thing I find about them is that they're often very similar stories. Like, I was an editor on a indigenous survival story at one point as well, and they're all unique. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's all the same sort of beats or plots that happen with them. So we'll see. I don't know. Something I like to think about.
Yeah, it can be tough because a lot of those stories, you know, the way that this country has done things has kind of always been in that same systematic.
It's pretty systematic.
When we talk about being systemic, it's by design. Yeah,
absolutely.
Which makes it tough.
So trying to put together a full collection of the portfolios. I didn't have number 8, so in case you don't know, portfolios are Canadian caricature. They're really interesting little studies about that particular year and what happened during that year, who were the major players in like world events and Canadian events, politics, what were citizens at that time concerned about. You get a good view of it. But also too, if you're someone who's trying to learn a bit about caricature like I am, it's a really great way to see how many artists are doing the same subject, right? Like all these people drawing Mulrooney or Trudeau Senior, you can see that all in one location. So that's
it seems really invaluable.
Yeah. At some point, I hope to get all 25 of them, but we'll see. This is very similar to that. Pandemonium, Cartoons and Caricatures by Bruce McKinnon, who is the cartoonist for the Halifax Herald, with a foreword by Rick Mercer. I'm not as familiar with Bruce McKinnon's work, but this is a pretty good introduction for me. Some pieces that I thought were worth noting. Especially as we take our overview of Stuart Cameron.
Yeah.
Perfect. 2001. This is over 20 years ago. Oh my God. Same story in 2022. Okay, USNA. This one is something I've seen out there in the wild numerous times. There's lots of copies out there floating around. If you want to pick something up at a thrift store, comic stores, I know in Canada, especially here in Western Canada, you can get these. I'm pretty sure I've read it before. It's basically a civil war happens in North America. It's these people's perspective of how that goes down. A story that's been done a few times.
Yes.
Yeah. Saw an issue of National Lampoon, which is not the most politically.
Yeah, they did a lot of racy stuff, a lot of some stuff that does not age well. For sure. But it's an interesting time capsule into humor out of this particular type of humor.
Yeah.
That came out of what was it? It was originally paper for Harvard or something, wasn't it? Before it became national. It was a student thing, and then as they came out, the group of them started National Lampoon, and it took off from there.
Holy hell. Yeah. Guy and Wilson has some art in here. I'll just flip to some of his stuff real quick, but not that big. Yeah. Guy and Wilson, to me, like one of the best cartoonists of all time. I really do like his stuff. And Keith Giffen's Trencher, which I know the kayfabe guys are all about right now. I think Keith Giffen has a lot to thank Guy and Wilson for. Just an artist I really, really like, really appreciate. Breadwinner, graphic novel, haven't read it, don't know what it's about, saw it there. Groundwood Press, which is a great Canadian publisher. Wanting to visit this and seeing what it's all about. I think both the artist and the writer are in Canada. Oh no, one lives in Ireland. The other one's out of Simcoe, Ontario, which is where my wife is from. So looking forward to reading that. There goes The Neighborhood, An Irreverent History of Canada by Rayside. At some point, I'll do a Rayside video. He's got a lot to pull from, and his art is really good. I was excited to see, cartoon history of Canada is basically what this is, and done by a very competent artist. So, looking forward to that read through. Another one that's not Canadian by Brian Talbot. Brian Talbot has been in comics for a very long time. I'm trying to think of some of his best stuff. What the Cat Saw.
Oh, okay.
I think that's one of his big works.
Oh, wow.
Just a really cool,
juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, really.
Actually, one of my favorite pieces of his is this book he wrote about his experiences at comic conventions.
Okay.
And it's whack. It's so whack. So you're reading this and it's like, what happened? And he comes from like that classic like San Diego Comic Con. He would have been part of those. So I love picking up feminist lit in the form of graphic novels, and that's what this is. The Red Virgin and the Vision of Utopia. Really great little piece here. I think is Dark Horse. Yeah, Dark Horse.
It is, yeah.
All right. Arctic Animals. I just love nature illustration in general, coming out of Canada. The different techniques that are used.
Lots of beautiful texture work.
Yeah,
in this one.
love it.
That's a good
love
one
it.
to look at.
I want to pull from
very
this.
reminiscent of what you did in your Phantom train of.
The wall of that train. That's it. Well, thanks for picking that up. Yeah, stippling, all of it is on showcase here. Like such delicate lines, beautiful lines. Capture these really nice pictures of some wildlife in the Arctic. Wanting that to definitely influence some of my art more. Donato, one of my favorite political cartoonists in Canada here. Donato, just another one of his anthologies that I didn't know existed. So the thing that impresses me about Donato is his ability to switch styles from day to day, and every one of his styles are absolutely beautiful. I feel like this one, so cartoons by Roy Peterson, he really is kind of like the quintessential Canadian political cartoonist. And I think he even had a bit of a relationship with Trudeau Sr. at some point. Wanting to definitely pick up his stuff and dive a little bit deeper into him. You find bone at a thrift store, you can't just leave it, right? Charles Vess drawing this? Hells yeah. I'm all over this. Oh, look at that piece.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Charles Vess for sure. Cutting that. Great artist, man. Holy hell. You can't leave bone on the shelf when you come across it. I'm gonna try to get the full set. I'll see if I can get the full set for less than what, $20? Think I can do it?
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure I can pull it off. All right, another great Canadian piece here. So the Graphic History Collective is out of Ontario, I believe. But this publisher, Between the Lines, BTL, is also out of Toronto. They tend to tell stories exclusively about labor and working class struggles. I've read a couple of their other books. The General Strike of Winnipeg of 1919 is a really, really good one. Pulling from that. And it always struck me that these artists that are doing this sort of graphic collective, I always thought, Peter Cooper. It really reminds me of Peter Cooper's art. And there's even, I think I saw in here a little thing from Peter Cooper saying how great this was.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter Cooper.
Okay.
And Gord Hill, it's definitely similar to like Gord Hill's protest comics that he does. His stuff is about resistance, and it's so good. And then Peter Cooper, who did World War III Illustrated. Cool stuff there. And then last but not least, finding this beautiful book.
This one at the thrift store, eh?
Yeah, I found this at a thrift store. They had another Kirby book, but it wasn't as strong as this one. And Marc Vanier, for those of you who don't know about Marc Vanier, awesome comic historian. He's contributed to a little character called Gru, the Wanderer, with Sergio, and I believe he's the letterer for Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo as well. Yeah. Been around for a long time. He's worked in animation in the 80s, and here he is doing a book on Kirby. And my cat walked on it. But what can you do? Wonderful book. I think the Kayfabe guys might have even done a flip through of this book.
Maybe. I think they did King of Comics.
Oh, okay.
I think so, but I could be wrong.
But yeah, beautiful, beautiful pieces in here to inspire.
Put together very nicely.
Yeah, beautiful book. I thought maybe it was designed by Chip Kidd, but it's not. It's not. Yeah, there were some pieces in here, like this design, a redesign of Thor.
Wow.
Imagine that, eh? Imagine that as our Thor.
I always imagine many times they say, Jack, we can't have people won't be able to draw this thing.
Oh, look at that.
Beautiful.
Just breathe that one in, folks. All right, that's the haul for today. I'll put some links to some of the thrift stores that I visited, books between friends. But like, comment, subscribe if there was any of these books that you saw in here that you're like, oh, I didn't know about that. Let me know. All right.
So long.
Take care, folks.